Most online coaches right now are running their business like a 2014 Craigslist cleaner. You're relying on manual hustle, custom proposals, and being the best. Look, I learned the hard way in the trenches of a brick and mortar business that hustle doesn't scale, systems do. And the coaches right now that are winning in the space, they're not better than you, they're not working harder than you, but they do have better operations than you. When I started my cleaning company, which was really more of a lead generation agency, but for the sake of simplicity, let's say when I started my cleaning company back in 2014, the industry was completely different. You could literally, it was like the wild, wild west. You could post an ad on Craigslist or on Facebook ads, and it didn't even have to be a good ad, but you would get instant leads, tons of book calls, tons of clients, and it wasn't hard at all. But as time progressed, bigger companies started to come into the marketplace, and they started to drown out the little guy. They started to add more competition, ads got more expensive, and it became a lot more difficult to grow that kind of business. Does that sound familiar? Because it does to me. I've been a career coach since 2021. I've worked with over 300 clients, vice presidents, C-level executives, and even seven-figure founders. And what I can tell you is that the way you have to grow a coaching business today in 2026 is not the same way you could grow it back in 2021 or 2023. Back then, you could literally post some organic posts on Instagram or whatever. You could do some direct outreach, send some DMs, and you would start growing your coaching business relatively easily. That still works today, but it doesn't work nearly as well. And the reason why is because the market has become saturated and has become more sophisticated. Now, the cleaning companies back in 2014, the ones that survived once the shift began to happen, they didn't go chasing new marketing tactics, they rebuilt their systems. And right now, in 2026, is the time to do the same in the online coaching and consulting space. Quick note, if you already know that your coaching business needs better systems, I put together a free resource that shows how client acquisition works together as a full ecosystem. You don't need it to keep watching, but it'll give you the full roadmap. It's linked down below. I'll show you exactly how this applies to you as an online coach in a minute, but before we get there, you have to understand the two different types of business owners at a macro scale so that you can understand how to apply it at a micro scale. So the two different types of business owners, in brick and mortar especially, are owner-operators and companies. In the cleaning industry, the owner-operator was the average guy with a van, a mop, and a bucket. They were cheaper, but they were unreliable. The company cost more, but they were consistent, which brings us to the number one distinguishing factor that drives purchasing decisions in the online coaching space: trust. And right now, too many of you are operating as digital owner-operators. You are the offer. You are the support desk. You are everything. But if you want to drive trust in the online space, you have to create systems. The people who succeed in this market, the coaches who really thrive, they have processes, they have a program, they have a promise, not just a personality. And once you position yourself as a company, speed becomes your unfair advantage. So how can we use speed to win? When I had the cleaning companies, we had a rule. Leads got answered in the first 60 seconds. Why? Because studies show that if you respond to leads in the first 60 seconds, your chance of converting that lead into a client increases by 391%. If you respond in the first 5 minutes, as opposed to waiting 30 minutes, your chance of qualifying that lead increases 100x. So when I had the cleaning companies, we had a designated person whose main job was simply to answer calls in the first 60 seconds. And if for whatever reason they couldn't get to the call within a certain designated time frame, we had an automated process where the call would immediately be routed to somebody else and she would then pick up the call. That way we could increase our likelihood of actually getting the jobs simply because we would pick up sooner. Now, this directly applies to you as a coach, because if somebody DMs you and then you wait 4 hours to respond to them, you are losing the dopamine hit. That dopamine hit that made them actually reach out to you, it's wasted. And coaches are losing like 50% of their leads right now simply because of intent decay. They literally let the intent of the prospect decay in their inbox because they don't respond fast enough. But speed only works if you create systems, which brings me to my next point. You need to systematize everything. When we had the cleaning companies, we broke everything down to the square footage, to the room. That way we knew exactly how much time each room, depending on that square footage, would take our cleaners. And we then trained our cleaners to meet our time demands. So for example, the average living room took between 15 to 20 minutes with 2 cleaners. The average bathroom took between 30 to 45 minutes with just 1 cleaner. And we trained them to operate the same way every single time so that we could standardize the service and so that we can know exactly how much time would be required for each house. and predict how much our hourly wages will cost us to pay our cleaners, depending on the size of the house and the square footage and all that stuff. So as a coach, you need to also systematize everything. You need to make sure that you have the same process from client acquisition. How do you generate leads? How do you actually walk your clients through a proper sales process? What does the onboarding process looks like? Because systematizing that allows you to create predictability in your business, as well as increase customer satisfaction and trust in the marketplace. Because right now, what most coaches and consultants are doing is they're customizing everything for every single client. But if you have to customize your fulfillment, your offer every single time, you're not building yourself a business. What you're building yourself is shackles. Because what you'll find is that you'll begin to actually hate your business because you're constantly having to change things. You never really know what to expect, and you're losing all the time and the freedom that probably inspired you to start this business in the first place. Most coaches and consultants start because they want to have some sort of impact in the world, and typically they selfishly want to have some sort of lifestyle that they're also trying to achieve. So it's like there's this side that wants to make an impact in the lives of others, but they also want to benefit their own life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you build a business where you're constantly customizing everything, you pretty much eliminate the whole ability of actually building the lifestyle that you want, and you punish your clients because they don't have a predictable, experience, which actually reduces customer satisfaction long term. But once everything is systematized down to the T, pricing becomes obvious. Back when we had the cleaning companies, one of our advantages, and this applies directly to you as a coach, is that we were able to offer flat rate pricing when all of our competitors were literally saying like, hey, we'll come out for a quote in like 3 days or 2 days or whatever. And they would have to go out to provide a custom quote, which would take forever. Clients didn't like it because they had to wait for somebody to come provide them a quote. And then if this cleaner comes to their house and they see that they live in a nice big house, they know that they're gonna get the zip code tax. And the zip code tax is basically, hey, you live in a good neighborhood, so we're gonna charge you more than we charge the people down the street. And clients knew this. Clients knew that they were getting upcharged just because they lived in a good neighborhood. And they had to also wait for these cleaners to come and provide these custom quotes, which was inconvenient. But us, what we did was we offered flat rate pricing. And the only reason we could do that is because we had already systematized down to the square footage how long each house would take. We calculated our profit margins, and we knew how much we would have to pay each of our cleaners and the members of our team, which is why we were able to actually provide flat rate pricing online. And here's what happened. Back then in those days, back in 2014, the standard practice was you just had your average person on Craigslist. They would come clean the house, whatever, but it wasn't really operating as a professional business. We present it as a professional business with flat rate pricing, kind of like the CarMax. We're gonna give you a fair price. We're not gonna haggle, right? It's just provided it. So what happened was we were able to collect money up front before our cleaners ever even went to the house, which meant that we were able to actually get cash fast while all of our competitors were waiting 3 days just to provide a quote and still not collect any cash, or wait a week until they did the quote, did the service, and then they finally get paid. But meanwhile, we were getting paid up front. And the same thing is true for you as a coach. You want to decrease the time delay between when you generate a lead and when you sign a client to when you get paid. So you want to collect cash upfront as quickly as possible. That way you can actually grow and scale long term. But this is where a lot of coaches go wrong. They send out these custom proposals, these custom quotes, and all that really does is delay your time to cash. And it also creates friction between when a lead comes into your funnel and when they actually become a client, because you're having to send them a custom proposal, which adds friction. And unless you're selling to like really big business or anything like that, you typically don't need to do custom proposals. Just have your standard packages, have your premium packages, and have the rate. And when you have the rate, it actually creates confidence in your prospects, which means that when they actually become a client, they know that they're working with a real established business that's not just creating things up as they go. So all that to say, we really want to reduce our time to cash. One of the biggest things that hold businesses back, especially like in this space, is that you're not collecting cash fast enough, which means that you're bleeding momentum. And this is where most people get it wrong. They think that this is the strategy, but it's not. It's simply a gear inside a system that makes getting clients predictable. Pricing alone isn't it. Speed alone isn't it. It's simply a piece in the ecosystem. It doesn't matter if you're scrubbing floors or consulting CEOs. The mechanics are identical. Compress time to cash, reduce friction, increase speed. And if you're trying to figure out how this whole thing works out by yourself, you're doing it the hard way. And if you'd rather just see how this whole thing fits into a full client acquisition system that maps everything out step by step, it's linked down below.